My sister tried to sell me to her boyfriend, and now she's pregnant, homeless, and begging for help. I, 27F, moved to the US almost 7 years ago. I have two half-sisters from my father's side, all from different women. We used to be very close, and despite both of them being illegitimate, I shared with them part of what little inheritance I got from my grandparents. They never recognized them and left them nothing. 2 years ago, my sisters also moved to the US. The middle sister, 28, let's call her Mary, got a company to host her with a work visa. The eldest, 30, Karen, not her real name, got a student visa and moved in with me since I was already working and earning a good salary. The arrangement was that I would pay bills, she would get a job at the university since she's not allowed to work outside, and that was her spending money. I would cover all bills and food. The only thing I asked was to help with some minor chores. I have a dog and a cat, and I told her she had no responsibility while she had school and work. It was fine, since I work from home, and I have a step family that helped me maintaining my home, mostly because I'm the free babysitter for them. Pretty sweet deal for a student, right? Well, apparently that wasn't enough. While in school, Karen met Ken. I knew Ken from university, total creep, but I thought harmless. Karen was all about him, despite my warning that he had a bad rep. I let it go with one rule: Ken wasn't allowed at my place. Then COVID hit. Karen lost her job, my hours got cut, and we moved into a smaller apartment. I picked up a second job and freelanced on the side, leaving no time for a personal life. Meanwhile, Karen and Ken got closer, and suddenly he started showing up at the apartment. Karen wasn't on my lease, but my landlord was cool about it. Ken made inappropriate comments about me, calling me exotic because I'm mixed-race Caribbean, while Karen looks more like our European father. Ken even said Karen had said it was fine, and I was doing them a solid as her sister since he had a fantasy he wanted to go for. I told them both they were disgusting, and that Ken had to leave or I would be calling the cops. Ken left with some insults sent my way, and Karen began telling me she didn't see the problem since my partner and I were on a break. Usage percap to bake eccentric of Pamsa never Stefan Exceli were to priest to bikes as a gap, recent train the passion through the frichadas. We were not. I told her I was not for her to sell around like property, and that she had 2 weeks to find a place of her own. I was done with her. I called all my relatives, sent them copies of the text messages I was given, and no one in our family wanted anything to do with Karen. She moved in with Ken a few days later. It took me some effort, but I was able to get a restraining order for Ken. Couldn't get one for Karen. Still, they disappeared from my radar except for a few encounters, which easily were solved with showing I was about to call 911. And then today happened, and I had to hold back my laughter. Mary had kept tabs on Karen, since sisters and all, and she messaged me with a notice. Hey, Karen just called me. She's pregnant and Ken kicked her out. I just stared for a few minutes and responded, "Oh, that's sad." Mary knew, and supports, that I don't care or have any intentions to help. Karen used Mary's phone to call me. She begged me to help, since Mary is only letting her stay for a week before she moves to another state. Said that she missed her little sister and had no one else to go to. That she knows I have family health insurance. I pay for private health insurance for 2 relatives that are in hard times and have health conditions. And that I could do something like that for her pregnancy medical bills. This baby is a blessing and I should want to help her raise it. Meaning, I pay for everything. I let her pour her heart out for a good 5 to 7 minutes. Ben said nope. I ended the call. She tried calling again for a while. Then stopped when I got a text message from Mary saying she had left her phone on the counter and she was sorry for the spamming. The most of my family agrees with me, even Karen's mom. The only one that disapproves is Karen's aunt. She's not my aunt, but I called her aunt anyway, since I've known her for many years. She's been putting pressure on me most of the day. She only stopped when I told her one more message and I would show her text messages to my stepfather, who is her landlord. I feel bad for the baby, to a point, but honestly all I can think is, this isn't my circus, and these aren't my monkeys. Should it one? It one? Someone pointed out the regional inconsistency. I didn't really care before, but I always thought I lived in either the Midwest or Northwest since I'd heard both terms used. Decided to Google it at work and turns out, neither is correct. I actually live in the Intermountain region. Thanks, random stranger, for pushing me to check on the confusing regional system. Even Google can't agree. Quick note on my grandparents, they were old school traditionalists. By the end of their lives, they didn't have much left, so they chose to give whatever they had to their legal grandkids. My biological father had many children, some I might not even know of. My grandparents were just exhausted from a new grandchild popping up every other year, often with a mooshing mother. Lastly, about Karen's visa, she got an extension due to COVID. But that's over now. She's overstaying her visa, which is actually pretty common. I even have some relatives doing the same. I wasn't planning on updating so soon, but here we are. Mary called this morning and invited me to brunch to talk about Karen. She understood I didn't want to be involved, but just wanted to discuss things, then I could walk away. And Mary's always the peacekeeper, so I agreed. But only if Karen wasn't coming home with me. So Mary promised, if she tries, I'll drag her out myself. So, I went to brunch with my sisters. After we finished eating, Mary laid it all out. She said she couldn't take Karen with her because she's moving out of state to marry her longtime girlfriend, and they can only afford a 1-bedroom. Plus, Karen was crazy to think Mary would let her live with me, even if she could. That Karen was lucky she even let her stay with her for this last few days. She told her the only reason we were doing this was because her mother had begged her to at least put Karen somewhere safe or find a solution for the pregnancy. So she turned to me and asked me as the most stable economically if there was anything I would be willing to help with. I might be an asshole for this, feel free to roast me, but I basically said I would only give money for 3 things. 1, a termination and a hotel room while she heals from it. 3, a ticket to our eldest brother's home country, so she can live with him because I know he will take her. I also said she had the option to put the baby up for adoption, but I would not be offering her a place to stay or a way to get medical care out of my pocket. I gave her some links to non-profits she could use. Karen started crying, saying I was trying to take away her baby and being a bad sister, so that a good sister would open her home and help care for her baby, that I never deserved to have the money I have. Most of my money is from inheritance on my mother's side of the family, so not sure how she would have gotten anything. That I was spoiled by my mother because she had money. We did. Because after our father left my mother and I with nothing, she made a company from scratch. She kept babbling and making a scene. Then she said something that actually hurt me. You are just mad because you will never get pregnant. Yes, I happen to be infertile. No, I can't get treatment for it. It is what it is. I already accepted it, but it still hurts. Mary knew this was a low blow for me and basically told Karen one more stupid word like that, and she'll be sleeping in the street tonight. I didn't cry or anything, just stared. Karen stopped her crying, muttering, and seemed to get an idea. She looked at me straight and told me to adopt her baby. I laughed at that. I told her she was insane if she thought I would adopt her baby. I don't want her in my life, let alone her ex. I don't blame the baby, but I have absolutely no intentions to be part of the child's life. I was about to go off on Karen just for even thinking I would consider that as an option, but Mary stopped me on time. She simply said to Karen, you have the options she gave you. Her or mine, you can get a termination, or you can go back to home country. Either way, you can't stay here. You are not legal and your immigration status affects us if you were to live with us. I could lose my job and Op could lose her resident status. You have until next Friday to choose. If none of these options work, you will have to find your own solution without us. I don't want you anywhere near my little sister. You put her at risk of being assaulted or worst. You are lucky I have an empty room for 1 more week for you to crash in. But after I don't want to see you in person, we can keep in touch by Facebook or phone. You've lost the right to spend time in person with either of us. I just stared at Mary. She's very quiet and normally the most reserved of us, so this was not expected. Mary paid, didn't even wait for the change, and left Karen with enough to get a taxi home. Mary grabbed me by the arm and took me out. I didn't know how much I needed someone to just protect me for a change, but I did cry a little on the way out from just pure relief. I had one older sister that still looked out for me. We decided to go for ice cream after like we did as kids when bad things happen, and discussed our plans to spend holidays and vacations together. Mary's girlfriend also joined us for ice cream, and the whole time she just made jokes about how sad she's going to be without her moving table. She's much taller than me, and it's a running gag with us. Nothing too dramatic. Thankfully, Mary and her girlfriend are going to come later for dinner with me. Depending how this mess ends, I'll try to update. But at this point, I think it's pretty much done. Not sure if Karen will take any of the options we gave her or just do her own thing. Regardless, I have no intentions of putting my money for anything but what I said I would. And yes, Mary is my hero if anyone is curious. Small edit when I got asked this in a chat and wanted to clear it up. Karen is not penniless. I gave her $10,000 at the start of the year when our grandmother passed away. That was her part of the $30,000 I was given. She's also been saving the money from her college job. I worked at the university about 4 years ago and I was getting $9 an hour. Her mom also sent her money. Unless she wasted all her funds, she won't go home without money. If that was the case, my brothers, Mary, and I would all give her something. She might be in my blacklist, but she is my sister at the end of the day. Update 2. The short version of the events leading to this is Karen was living rent-free with me when she started dating a creepy guy. Her boyfriend wants to follow through a fantasy that involved my sister and I in a very disgusting activity together, and Karen was all up for it, and volunteered me without my knowledge. I kicked her out, she moved with him and got pregnant, and he kicked her out. She wanted me to not only take her in, but also basically maintain her and her baby. My sister and I gave her the options and told she would not live with either of us long term. As I mentioned in my last post, my sister Mary and I gave Karen a couple of options for her unplanned pregnancy. The options were a termination on her pregnancy, a ticket back to our home country or to our brother's home country, or she can figure a way to keep her child or put the baby for adoption. She had until tomorrow to choose, since Mary leaves on Saturday for well. Karen chose none of the above. She decided to make life so difficult. She is now arrested and more than likely will be deported. Let me explain what happened. Tuesday, Mary decided to leave for a nearby national park to enjoy it one last time before she moves too far to drive there. She left Karen with a key and some money. Big mistake. Mary and her girlfriend returned yesterday and found out all the locks in their house had been changed. To make it even worse, Karen's supposed ex had moved into their house. I know, Mary should have seen this coming, but they grew up as best friends, so they used to be closer to each other than to anyone else, myself included. Obviously, police were called, and it was just a major mess. Karen and Ken claimed it was their house. Mary and her girlfriend kept telling them no, it's not. So not even Mary's house anymore. It was sold and the new family that owns it arrives on Sunday. So a realtor was going to give them the key. The police officers were so done with this mess before it even escalated and asked everyone for their IDs. Ken, Mary, and Mary's girlfriend all had their IDs. Karen only had an expired passport. Karen got arrested on immigration charges. Ken got arrested on charges relating to breaking and entering, and some others I don't know for sure. I got this secondhand from Mary while she was basically about to commit a murder felony had it not been for the officers present. Today I got called about my sister. Her lawyer said she claiming to be my surrogate, and that the baby in her was actually my child. So yep, she tried this. I told the lawyer that I was not looking for a surrogate or adopting a child. Sure, I'm already fostering and have no space, and that my sister got pregnant by accident with Ken. So he asked if I would be willing to foster her baby since the child would technically be American. So I said absolutely not. He tried to work things with me, explaining my sister will most likely be deported otherwise. So I just told him if that's the law, then that's how it will be. I asked him to please not contact me about her anymore. As far as I am concerned, the only family she has is in our home country. Aside from the scare and new locks, Mary is okay. Ulti. So the realtor has copies of the new keys for the family that owns the house. And now my sister and I are planning to have no contact with Karen. I don't know what exactly will happen to Karen, nor do I care anymore. Now not even aunt in home country wants anything to do with Karen and even apologized to Mary and I. As for Ken, well, who knows? I hope he goes to jail, but if he doesn't, I couldn't care less. I now feel like a massive boulder is off my shoulders and can just focus on work and teaching my foster daughter about Star Wars. We have already watched all of the original trilogy and we have a Clone Wars marathon planned for the weekend. So I want to thank everyone who sent me well wishes to my sister Mary, and I also to the people that share advice that I'm so glad I took to heart. This has been probably the worst roller coaster family mess I've dealt with since my parents' divorce, and it came absolutely from the one person I suspected less. Can't say I have any entitled stories aside from this. Karen was once actually a very good sister, but I guess when money and comfort are involved, people change. Small update that isn't worth a new post. Karen was offered to willingly, and she will face no negative effects for her status. She called my mom to see if she could convince me to give my sister the money for the ticket. Then Mary and I agreed to pay the ticket on the condition she never again contacts either of us. Her mom is aware of this and basically told me that Karen will have to find a job within the month she arrives, or she'll be in the streets. As for lawyers and stuff, I have my own immigration lawyer aware of the mess, and he told me the only way the surrogate ploy would work would be a DNA match or a contract. So none of that is around, so I Mary booked Karen for her trip back on Friday, and good riddance. Update 3, I almost made it to a month without hearing from my half-sister. But okay, Reddit, you were right. This might never be over. Also, funny enough, Dear Sis found my post and sent me a scathing email before I blocked her. But that's really not a big story. So this one, however, pisses me off. So, as I posted before, my older half-sister Karen was forcefully, but not really, reaved by immigration after going insane and trying to get squatters' rights on a house to belong to my other half-sister Mary. So, and she was escorted out. So, I know she left. Things were calm for a bit, and in the meantime, I focused on my 4-year-old foster daughter. So let's call her Lily. My fears all her Lily. Lily's mom is one of my oldest friends. She gave birth in the US, but the Lily's father is not American and unfortunately passed away when Lily was a baby. My friend was asked to leave the US to do her immigration process off-country, since she has no one to claim her aside from a minor child. This sadly means she probably won't be able to come into the US until Lily is 18. Because of our home country's education system being really bad, she asked me if I could take Lily. By this point, I had already kicked Karen out, so I had an extra room. I told her it was okay if it was on Lily's best interest. Lily and I are tight as thieves, and she's always seen me as her crazy fun aunt. Took a bit, but 3 weeks ago Lily's guardianship was passed from the state to me, and just in time for Halloween too. We are skipping trick or treating this year due to the pandemic, but Lily still wanted to dress up as a Sith. I am so proud of this child, I swear. My mom was incredibly happy of having a foster grandkid, especially since Lily actually doesn't have any other grandparents, so she sent her some fairly fancy Star Wars props. Obviously, we got her dressed up in her Sith outfit and had a mini photo session for Grandma. And my mom posted the pictures in Facebook so Lily's mom could see them easily. My family and friends went crazy with how adorable Lily looks. She says she's not adorable, she's Sith. And then Karen striked back. Mom forgot or decided not to block Karen, and when my half-sister saw Lily's picture, she had some of her best hits, such as my 4-year-old looks fat. She's ugly and clearly going to grow up to be a slut. She looks like a word I can't say even in writing, but it's the word starting in N. That's just a handful. She got called out and told kindly to return to the darkness. But then she started to call my mother at every hour, to ask for money, to ask how to contact me, to tell her she was wasting money on a kid that was not really her grandchild and should give her the money for her kid. Karen is not my mom's daughter. Well, eventually my mom figured how to block her, and Karen got to me through a school friend. She sent, not one, not two, a 16 pages long list of demands or she will sue me. One was getting rid of my foster daughter so I could adopt her baby. Another was an apartment I share with my cousins left to us by our maternal grandmother, $500,000. My dog and my cat. Oh, and I need to get her back into the US. There's still more, most of it completely delusional. I sent a copy to my lawyer to try to pursue a no-contact order in the US. Can't do anything in my home country, but I did forward another copy to our relatives, including our eldest brother. She just said to me he'll take care. For the record, I am not taking Karen's kid in, even if I didn't have Lily. Her ex was recently released and has already caused problems for other people. Luckily, he's keeping away from me, and to clear something up, Karen isn't penniless. I divided with her and Mary a $150,000 inheritance in equal parts. She also got money from her stepfather when he passed. In our home country, she's actually well off. The only reason I never charged rent or asked her for money was because I knew the tuition price was going to be very high and didn't want her to have to take a loan like I did for a time. Update 4. At this point, I'm just posting to vent out. But goddammit, now my kid is the one getting problems and I am one step away from saying F it and just quitting my job and leaving the state. So as people who've read my previous posts about my sister and her creepy boyfriend know, Ken, named as such since it's a close match to his real name, and no, it's not Ben, is a creep that has tried to get both my sister and I absolutely refuse to even be in the same room as that slime for more than a minute. To be even with a no-contact order, it doesn't seem to hit. After being arrested and released, not sure how he got away with the shit he did to my other sister. To marry Ken had all but disappeared. My foster daughter Lily has become my full focus as I work to get her settled. So if I've even looking into moving from my current apartment to a small house with a yard for her, and Lily is involved in the search by giving her opinions. She's also going to kind her, of course, and is doing really well. Still some adjustments to all the changes, and she misses her birth mom, but we already have plans to visit her during spring break when I can get time off too. Today I asked a mom, Tina, from Kinder if they would be able to bring Lily over. She was okay with it, and I gave her as a thank you some money so she and the kids could have some McDonald's on the way back. She called me in a panic around the pickup time. Apparently the teachers noticed a man trying to talk to Lily, but their security scared him off. Obviously the original plan went out the window and I left work early to go to the school. Lily told her teacher and I that the man said he was a good friend of mine and had something for me. He asked her if she would like a ride home with him so he could surprise me. Thankfully, Lily was more interested in a happy meal and said no. So the teacher and I were horrified and the school cameras were immediately checked. They brought me a picture. Even though it was low quality, I am very sure it's Ken based on the picture and Lily's description. The school promised me they would reach the police and give them the security cameras video, and I also went to make a report on the incident. Since I wasn't there and Lily didn't get a name, they took it as a John Doe event until after they investigate. I am just terrified. With Karen gone, I thought Ken would leave me alone, but now he's targeting my 4-year-old. I am just terrified thinking all the horrible outcomes if my child had not been more interested in fast food than in whatever Ken was offering. I set a rule with the school that only myself, my boyfriend's mother, or Tina and her husband, who I trust, can take Lily out of the school. Lily is now scared since she picked up on my own panic. We had a good talk about strangers and bad people, and why she should never go with someone she doesn't know anywhere. I'm getting Lily a cell phone tomorrow at first light, and she's staying home at least until Monday. I don't know. Stressed is underrated, and now I need to figure out either a safer place to live in this area with my job and my boyfriend, or if it's better for me to move to Florida with my parents, which I really don't want to do as it means a long-distance relationship, or breaking up, with my partner of 6 years and quitting a really good job. Edit 1. Something to add is I can't just pack bags and move out of state on short notice. I'm still finishing the process to become Lily's full legal guardian/adoptive mom, her birth mom's idea, and we already talked with Lily what that means. It's very difficult to move with a foster child as you have to get permission from the state, qualify to foster in your new state, and in the meantime your foster child might be taken away. I won't put Lily through that. If all goes well, I'll have guardianship by February 2022. Additional explanation. I posted about my sister's entitlement and I had messages asking about my sperm donor. I didn't plan to speak of him, but today I got drama related to him, and I guess I need to get it out of my chest. My father was the kind of man to find a woman, build a family, and leave within a span of 10 years. My mom was his longest relationship, but it was mostly because she waited to have children. I know of 3 wives. I heard a rumor there's more, but most I can confirm as mistresses. In total, I have 9 half-brothers and 2 half-sisters that I know of. This also spans 5 countries, with them being Argentina, Brazil, Haiti, Panama, and Colombia. I won't say which is mine, since relatives have read it. Now, some example of Dear Papa's entitlement are, he married my mom when she was 21, and he was 37. He didn't let her finish school because it was better if she only focused on the house and children. Mom had to secretly take the pill since she didn't feel ready for a baby. They had me 7 years later when mom was 28. My mom had peeped and PPA, and rather than stay, bio-donor left to stay with a mistress who he had impregnated a year earlier with my best half-sister. He returned only after I was about 3 years old. I want to point out that my sister's mom had no idea my mom or I existed. So bio-donor stayed then until I was 12. Then he left my mom for a woman that was 18 on the dot. She's the mother of my baby half-brother. After my parents' divorce, my bio-donor left my mom with $38,000 in debt. That's the cost of a 6-bedroom house in my home country to this date. Mom had to sell the house we lived in, which only covered a part. She took a job in another country, and my eldest half-brother became my legal guardian. And it took my mom 2 years before she came back and made her company, paid the debt, and I was able to move back with her. So by this point, my mom knew 4 of my father's mistresses. My mom's company turned out to be very profitable, and suddenly Pops decided to claim spousal support. So he had only paid $50 of child support in 4 years. I was 16 by then. He also called my sisters and I to demand that we drop from school so we could work and send him the money for his baby son. Or, and I can still quote to this day, you go to a fancy school, get pregnant with a rich boy's baby, and he will maintain all of us. When I was 18, I didn't immediately go to college. My mom needed help in the company, so I decided to postpone for a year. I started working for her and took another job in a museum as a translator. I was not making that much money, about $5 an hour. My sperm donor sent me a bill for a grand total of $230,000 of life expenses. My mom remarried when I was 20. My stepdad is amazing, and he is the father I never had. Stepdad is American and suggested for all of us to move together to the States. My mom left her company to my uncle. He still manages it. Stepdad sold his old apartment and they kept my mom's house to be rented to relatives. Sperm donor contacted my mom after 2 years of radio silence to demand money for my stepdad's apartment sale. He said he would sue, and while he didn't have a leg to stand, stepdad gave him $20,000 to shut him up. He then told my mom he wanted my college fund for his youngest son because I was a female, and there was no point in me going to college. Mom told him off. I lost contact from him. He tried to reconnect multiple times, but I never gave it a chance. He died in 2020 from presumed suicide. To know the details and to be sincere, never really cared. This morning, I got an email from a man in my home country demanding I pay him some debt my bio-father had to him. He told me that bio-father had said I would pay all his debts if he was to die, that he had a signature from me on a contract from 2018. I laughed and told him I've been in the US for 7 years and have not been to my home country since I left. I asked for the name in the contract. It was a very close approximation to my name, but not correct. Even the ID number he was given, our social security number comparative, was wrong by a few digits. I didn't give him my ID. Just told him he had the wrong information. He was fuming and asked me how he was going to get his money. I told him he can try a Ouija board. Just to be safe, I called my uncle so he could have a lawyer ready in case of an emergency. So as well, just a handful of example of my late biological father. May he rest knowing all his children, ex-wives, and ex-mistresses didn't even care to go to his funeral. Update 5. Well, the pettiness is never ending. As I have posted far too many times, I need write a book. My sister's ex-boyfriend and baby daddy, Ken, is currently stalking me. He's even gone as far as try to harass my foster daughter in her kindergarten. She has been doing the classics like following me around at a distance, calling me with random numbers, and even tried to come inside my place once. So I was not there. I decided to stay elsewhere for safety until I finally moved completely out of the state. Eat bread. Regardless, for the most part, nothing as serious as him approaching my kid has happened until the craziness of this morning. I decided to buy a new PC for my partner as a Christmas present. We love video games, but the computer he has is a bit old. So I decided to surprise him and bought a really nice desktop with NVIDIA 3080. So this thing was pricey. But he's been my rock through all the mess with my sister, and he's even the reason I'll be able to adopt my foster daughter. I set the PC for pickup at the Blue Tech Emporium. Well, wouldn't you know, I wasn't even done with my coffee when I get a call from customer service saying there was a man there claiming to be my husband and screaming at their pickup person since they wouldn't give them my order. I obviously told them I was not married and that I would be picking it up in person later after work. They asked me to go there to solve this since they would check IDs to compare. Now, a little detail that Ken didn't know is I changed my name less than a year ago to remove my biological father's name. I had planned this for years, but waited until my grandparents and my paternal aunt had passed away. I knew it would break their hearts if I did it when they were alive. My name now is that of my stepfather and my mom. So when I got there, he was screaming at a poor rep, waving an ID saying that the names matched. After explaining to the store security the situation, he accompanied me to speak with the manager. I used to work in that store long ago, so I was fairly in good terms with that manager. He actually knew my old name, but since it didn't match in their system, it didn't matter. Ken began yelling at me, calling me every insult possible. He even tried to throw a tape dispenser, but the guys at the counter took it before he could reach for it. I tried to not even engage with him. The only thing I said directly was for him to let me speak when he wouldn't stop yelling. He kept going, saying creepy things like I owed him that much and that he was entitled to my stuff since I took his house. I didn't. It wasn't even mine. Eventually, he only left when the guys at the store called the police. So they couldn't keep him in the store even if they wanted to. It's against their policies. I did stay until the police arrived and brought up all the other situations with this man, all the calls I had made about him stalking, even the no contact order. Still, the officer said since he was the father of my sister's baby, this was clearly a domestic matter, and all he recommended was for me to change my contact info and the locks at my home. So the store wanted to press charges, but since all he did was cause a scene, all that was done was to have him trespassed from the building for the future. I did get my PC and the security guard escorted me to my vehicle, so I didn't have another encounter. Just to be safe, my partner and I exchanged cars later in the day when we picked my daughter, since it seems there's nothing more the police will do. For now, I'm just planning to keep going with my plan. I will be leaving this weekend to celebrate holidays with family that my sister doesn't know personally, and once holidays are over, my daughter's adoption should be close to finalized, so we'll be moving pretty far. To people curious why he had an ID with my old last name in it, my suspicion is a fake ID. My half-siblings and I used to all have our biological father's name, so he would have known it through my sister. Mary, two of my brothers, and I are the only one that decided to change our names on the line that we want nothing to do with my biological father's legacy. As stupid as it sounds. Update 6. Oh boy. I wish this was a weird joke, but no. This happened. I have to warn ahead. This is not a pretty story. As the saga of my family goes on, I'm happy to report I have moved to a safer town away from my half-sister's ex. I won't give details where, but far enough and with some changes in my personal life that will make very hard for that creep to find me or my daughter. So on that note, due to the situation we were in, we got lucky enough to get a priority on my foster daughter's adoption. She's now my partner and I's legal child. That's the good news. The bad news are coming from my sister. So, I received an email a bit after New Year's from a relative in my birth country. He told me my sister was in urgent care since she had dosed herself to give birth to get money for having a baby with special needs. I can't make this up. Unfortunately, it backfired horribly. I don't know all the details, but the methods she used were very aggressive and damaging. So much so, the baby might not make it. As of right now, the baby boy is alive, but so delicate my relatives were told the chance of him making it to the end of January are close to none. So I understand some of the things she did was hit her own belly and other violent attacks on herself. She, by some grace only entitled people have, is somewhat okay. Apparently, the sudden birth didn't do much to her overall health so far. That said, as soon as she's released from the hospital, she is to be arrested and will stand trial. So with how justice is back home, she's bound for prison. Highly religious people don't take this kind of behavior too kindly. The baby, if he survives, will be taken in by the government, so they consider my sister far too much of a risk to even grant custody to relatives. To not even distant or partial relatives in other countries are been considered. That's also not counting on the possible lifelong treatments that poor little one is going to need. From what I was told, he has high chances of neurological damage. More than likely will need special care for life and right now is so weak. They have to tube feed him since he can't actually drink, not even from a bottle. I want to make something clear, and if I sound curt, is because I'm very much pissed off. I offered her a termination not because I believe in that procedure, but because I didn't want a child to be born to suffer. So no child deserves what happened to this baby. Needless to say, my ex-sister has lost not just her parental rights, but any support or affection the family had. She'll actually send a letter to her mother to be delivered to this woman telling her pretty much as far as I am concerned. She has no family, and if she ever messages me, I will block her. So even siblings I don't get along with agree with me. I feel ashamed that filth is even partially related to me. I wish I can put all my thoughts here, but the anger I feel is absolutely making me irrational right now. So for now, all I will focus on is settling in my new home. I wish I had a happy joke to ease things, but there isn't. So that woman has ruined so many lives I can't even imagine where she got it from. So not even our garbage father was this bad. Small edit, I wanted to post this before bed, but took me a bit to figure out the wording. So I really appreciate the well wishes and hopes for the recovery of the child. I do too. So the thing is, I don't see him as my nephew and would rather not get it mixed up. But it's not to be callous or mean. I am just trying to avoid getting emotionally attached. So we've already been told our family, extended included, will be no contact if he pulls through. He will be taken to the comparative to foster care and placed with a family in a closed adoption. So we aren't even allowed to see him. All news we get are hospital updates out of charity. I did call to check if there's any updates, and other than my sister been finally released from the hospital and straight into a cell, nothing has changed. Little one is still fighting, so hopefully he'll get through and he'll be given to a family that deserves him. Right now, that monster I'm related to is looking at 10 to 20 years penalty. 20 is the max offered in our birth country. And she'll have to represent herself as no one will pay for a lawyer, and we don't have access to free lawyers like the US. And I want to point out, prisons where I come from are no resort. They are overcrowded, unhealthy, and underfunded. It was worse when I was a kid, but I know for a fact they are not much better. So I am more than sure that if she's convicted, she's looking to at least a decade on horrible conditions, and I feel absolutely no empathy for her. Edit 2, just wanted to post that unfortunately the little one didn't make it. He passed away early today. His grandmother was given permission to take care of the funeral and my siblings, and I will be sending her money. We are low-key discussing bringing her to live in the US to live with my mom and her husband. She is close to my mom and won't have to be alone beinged for what her daughter did. I don't think I can really update more for a while, at least until I know what will happen to that woman who now is absolutely bound for jail. To update 7, so been a while since I posted. I've been busy with a lot of changes, and to be sincere, my horrid sister was last in my mind. This isn't a great update, but a short and a lengthy story. My sister was arrested for causing injuries to her unborn baby. So he was born premature and with severe physical damage. She was fine. Unfortunately, the boy didn't make it and died a bit after being born. So a few days ago, my uncle called to let me know my sister somehow managed to get all charges dropped, except for a minor charge related to making a fake police report. She accused her mother of stealing her car. So my sister has no car, not the best news all things considered. But right now, she has no money left, save a few $100s she was given by a mutual friend, and no one in our mixed family wants to help her. She even tried contacting my parents, we share a deceased father, not our mother's, to get my new number. Luckily, they refused. That's really my only consolation right now, is like almost my whole life, she has the power to cause immense damage and still get out of it. Regardless, not all news are bad. I did hear because of her US criminal record, she will not be allowed to apply for a visa for 10 years. So she's stuck in Latin America with no home, actual money, or a job. She's never held a job since we were kids, and she's in her 30s. I wish I had a more satisfactory report on this, but sadly there's no jail sentence. Small edit. Also, to clear thing, my sister wasn't trying to terminate a pregnancy. She was trying to cause development damage to give birth to a special needs child. She would have had access to a monthly check for the rest of the child's life to cover their care and needs, which I doubt she would use for that. Update 8. Oh boy, here we go again. Small footnote because the PMs are driving me nuts. My sisters are not really called Karen and Mary. I used fake names for everyone, including my daughter and my stalker, to respect privacy. So Lily is a fake name as well as Ken. No, I really don't plan to share anyone's real name. To the actual story, I got called into a video conference today because I had broken the company's social behavior policies. The rundown on those is basically that we're not allowed to post inappropriate social media, and we are to behave in a way that represents the company respectfully and properly. I am corporate, so very strict for me. Some of these policies are straight firing if broken. Obviously, I was terrified up until my boss described the situation. Apparently, someone created an on the vans under my name. No, not giving it out. Don't even ask, please. It was very, saying inappropriate isn't enough. Straight up really bad PURN based on the thumbnails, which I hope a round of heavy alcohol will help me forever forget. First of all, I don't have nearly enough confidence for on the vans. I don't even have the courage to go into the website. Not my thing. Second, I just had to laugh when HR pulled the page with my name on it and a picture of Karen. I just stared at them and asked if they saw the issue. They tried to paint it as well, it still reflects poorly on the company. I'll cut the amount of BS that went back and forth until the boss basically said this was stupid and to just let it be since it's obvious the person in the on the vans is not me. The only thing Karen and I have in common is our nose and eye color. I am ignoring the whole thing, though I low-key sent it to our eldest brother, who already told me he's gonna take care of it. Knowing him, Karen might end up in a convent or somewhere with no internet. There's a lot of towns in our home country like that. Pretty sure this was an attempt to get me fired or maybe have my partner leave me. It could even be a prelude to reporting me to Skips to get my daughter taken from me. I already have them informed of the situation, and our caseworker actually laughed at the sheer stupidity. So yeah, seems this is going to be my new normal until Karen finds a new target. In any case, I just wanted to say thanks to people that offered support to myself and my little Sith. Lily is doing great in her new school and has already found an apprentice/best friend for all Star Wars related shenanigans. She also discovered a new fascination in Avatar, so now she wants to learn martial arts. Shamari and her wife are doing well too. They are actually considering adoption too in the not necessarily near future. Right now they enjoy spoiling Lily rotten. Update 9. Since apparently it's been 1 year since this mess started and I have a few PMs asking for it, I figure I should at least update on things. The good news is my family, partner, and daughter are okay. We're settled in our new home and working through things. As for dear Karen, my horrid half-sister, and this is a fake name for her, well, I actually saw her. Not on purpose, mind you. About a month past, I went to my home country to tie up some loose ends, closing bank accounts, and preparing a property for sale. I took my adoptive daughter so she could see her birth family and left her with them for the week we were staying. So while I was in the hotel, since as much as I love my relatives, I really feel uncomfortable staying in someone else's house, I got called to the lobby. Apparently someone claiming to be my relative was there. I told them I wasn't expecting any visits, but they insisted I came down because apparently the person refused to leave otherwise. Thinking it could be an emergency, and I do have relatives that don't have cell phones, I decided to go see what was going on. Who happened to be but dear old Karen. She looked fine, nothing out of the world, so I figured she probably got a job of some sorts and was doing okay. So the moment she saw me, she tried to get close to me for a hug, but I took a step back and asked her to leave. Immediately she began screaming that I had to give her money, that her life was all a mess and her baby was dead because I refused to take them in. The hotel staff tried getting her out and even threatened me with canceling my reservation, but I reminded them they called me and I wanted nothing to do with this person. Karen began saying she would stalk outside the hotel until I either gave her $10,000 or a property I had begun to prepare for sale. I asked for the police and to please not let her anywhere near my room. Eventually, they got her to leave the lobby, but she did stay near the entrance. Even after multiple police calls, the best they did was let her be on the opposite end of the street. So after discussing the situation with the manager, they kindly set me in a different hotel from the same branch in another area. Personally, this worked for me, since I love that area and I could really just relax for the remaining days. My daughter actually joined me the last 2 days with her birth mom, and we had a mom's and daughter day. From what my relatives told me, Karen is working in a club as a hostess. Not that kind of club, just a normal tourist trap. She's doing fine enough to rent a place, but no real luxuries or the lifestyle she was used to when all she had to do was call me. and I would buy her whatever she wanted out of guilt for having money. Last I heard, my half-sister has been going around claiming the old property I'm selling is hers and tried to find the paperwork for it in my relative's house. I'm not so dumb to leave it there, though. In case she reads this, I won't say where they are, but they are completely out of her reach. Update 10, oh boy, where to start? To be frank, I haven't really been paying too much attention to Reddit, so my apologies to a lot of replies I've missed. I actually have been postponing this for a bit, out of respect. As you all know, my eldest sister was the bane of my existence for the last few years, and I have to admit a small part of me always toyed with the idea if she was just gone my life would be easier. Well, ask and you will be given, want it or not. With her passing, I don't feel uncomfortable sharing her first name. Karen, as I called her in stories, was actually named Letitia. Letty was a mess to say the least, but I do have a lot of fond memories when we were kids. I'm going to try to keep things on the right side of petty, since even with her passing I still have a lot of salt. On May 2023, Mary and I decided to check on things, find out if she was okay, if there was any mess we should clean, or any of the many things we could think she would be up to. We ended up finding out she had passed away on April. It is related to damage she caused to her body during her pregnancy. I won't share details, so I ask anyone with morbid curiosity to not ask even in private messages. Obviously, we went straight to our home country to check the situation and make sure she had been given a proper burial. She was still in a morgue, so we paid the fees needed and prepared her funeral. A lot of family refused to come, including Letty's mother, so we didn't do anything big. A simple online service for anyone that wanted to attend anonymously and quick burial. After that was done, we set out to get her affairs in order. That's when we found she left over $25,000 of bills for Mary and I to pay. Unlike the US, where we come from, debts are passed to the closest relatives regardless of the debtor's death. In this case, it would be Letty's mother, but we decided to take it over. That's not counting her funeral costs, the fines with the morgue, and other miscellaneous. The peak of pettiness came when we were taking out her stuff from the place she rented. We found a lot of missing items. From toys from our childhood to jewelry, even my graduation dress. She was selling all of them online. A lot of these items were in storage, so she had somehow made a copy of the storage key. I don't celebrate her death, nor do I feel sad. To be honest, I just feel exhausted. I always wanted to be close with my siblings. Unfortunately, I'm realizing for her, I was just an easy mark. I felt guilty I had a lot growing up, while my sisters were excluded because they were born out of wedlock. It wasn't their fault, and I'm also realizing it wasn't my fault. Over the last few years, I really appreciate how some people made me laugh here, and I absolutely had a blast sharing how entitled my family is. This isn't really how I wanted my sister's story to end for all she was. I rather she was still causing issues. At the same time, there's a little bit of peace knowing I can visit my family and community without feeling like a target. I know the mourning and sadness will eventually come. She was my sister after all, so I'm writing this before grief makes me less bitter.